but I'll do them. I'll do a natal chart if I have time, but I'll focus primarily on Sabian symbols. Now, I've had Linda Hill on. I actually had a tape record. I actually recorded an interview with her, and the audio was not great, which is too bad because it was a really good interview. And maybe what I'll do is I'll see if I can resurrect that and have the audio punched up a bit, because I think that would be a good thing to do. Maybe I can do the same thing with Rob Tillett's interview and finally get that on here. But anyway, Linda Hill is widely considered the preeminent specialist on Sabian symbols. The Sabian symbols, if you don't know the story, Mark Edmund Jones, Elsie Wheeler, one weekend, one day, Balboa Park, San Diego, I think it was like in the 20s. And Edmund Jones was kind of a, he's one of these, kind of secret society, he was an OTO, but Golden Dawn, Theosophist guys, and he was also an astrologer. And you got Elsie Wheeler, who was older, and she was infirm. She couldn't really walk, and they got any in some ways, if you think about it, right, it's kind of bizarre in some ways. They sat down in a car in Balboa Park in San Diego, I think one day, and he just, asked her. He would come up with a degree. They had every single degree of the zodiac plotted out, right? He did, but he would do this randomly. So he'd say 6 degrees Cancer, and she would come up with a Sabian symbol based on that, and the Sabian symbol would be an image, like an archetypal image. And I have found the Sabian symbols are pretty remarkable. So Edmund Jones, in conjunction with Elsie Wheeler, were like the first generation of Sabian symbol interpreters. And then along comes Dane Rudhyar, and Dane Rudhyar just blows the doors off of the Sabian symbols and relates it back to this larger cycle and gates. And, of course, Rudhyar just, brings the giant intellect to the Sabian symbol discussion. And then Linda Hill comes along and kind of, I wouldn't say she does anything different than Rudhyar, but I think she rehumanizes the Sabian symbols in some ways. I mean, Rudhyar is so esoteric and so spiritually scientific that it's almost daunting for the average person to engage in the meaning of the Sabian symbols. And I think Linda Hill kind of, she brought it back down to a more of a mainstream level, and it's but without sacrificing the mysticism and the magic and the archetypal resonance of the Sabian symbols. So, we can talk about those today, because I was playing with my Black Moon Lilith, and it's not as risque as it sounds, but I was getting into my Black Moon Lilith, which is in the 8th house, which is kind of an intense place for Black Moon Lilith, and it's in Cancer. And I looked at the Sabian symbol for that, and then I noticed and I realized that there are at least 3 Sabian symbols associated with various planets and degrees in my chart that are all really similar. And I have to say that they are signposts for my life. So again, it kind of reaffirmed the resonance of the Sabian symbol. And so we can get into that today. We could talk about Sabian symbols and be happy to look up your Sabian symbol and do my best to, kind of interpret what that might mean. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm your host. My name is Robert Phoenix. I have a website, robertphoenix.com. You can go there. You can check out what I do. Sign up for my newsletter. Book a reading. Look, this is a really good time to book a reading, and I'll tell you why. I don't have any. That's why. If you want to book a reading with me, I got a big, wide open runway. Now, I'm going to tell you that I'm probably going to, if you book a reading now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you are listening to this podcast after the show and you are listening right now currently, I will take, my rates for a reading are $85 an hour, which, by the way, are really affordable. I mean, there are astrologers out there that will charge you $150, $175. Some will charge you $250 for an hour and a half reading. Some will charge you $150 for a 50-minute reading. I had to raise my rates because, I just had to. I was way down at the bottom of the spectrum for 2 years. I gave people 2 years of, bargain basement rates. And even at $85 an hour, it's still very, very affordable. So what I'm willing to do is I'm willing to give you, if you're listening to the show and you tell me that you listen to the show or you listen to the podcast, you go to my website, I'm going to knock $15 off anybody that signs up for a reading that listens to this show or listens to this podcast. You just have to send me an email, and you can find me on my website. That's not hard at all. But you can do that, and that would bring your reading down to $70 for an hour, taking $15 off. But I have a wide open runway, and I'll be doing the readings after Mercury goes direct. I've had a hell of a time with readings in Mercury retrograde. It's just been wild. I mean, wild. I've had to redo a couple of readings for audio purposes, or or glitchy data. It's been a weird time. So you can book now. I'll do them when Mercury goes direct. So $70 off, $70, $15 off if you're listening to this with the podcast or live streaming. Okay. So I just wanted to tell you about that. Let me tell you about Friday's show. Friday's show could be maybe the best Friday show I've ever done. All right. First of all, George Green from Global Hoax or No Hoax, was it nohoax.com? He will globalhoax.com. He will be on the show. And George Green, I first met George Green back in 1990 at a seminar in Olympia, Washington. I didn't really meet him. I just hung out and listened. And I've stayed kind of current with his material over the years, Handbook for a New Paradigm and interviews on Coast to Coast. And George is an interesting character. He was an insider in the Carter administration, said no to the Carter administration, and then, carved out a niche for himself. He'll be on the show. And I just recently connected with an old friend, Linda Kahanov. And Linda is, she's an author. She's written 4 books now on horses. And the one book that really put her on the map was The Tao of Equus. And I know Linda from her days as a journalist and really being into music. She was a very respected writer for Pulse magazine and Billboard, and her field or her genre, her specialty genre was New Age music, was what they called it back then, or electronic music and space music. And Linda was a terrific writer, great music writer. And then she shifted from music to horses. And she's really gotten into the deeply spiritual relationship between horses and humans. And The Tao of Equus is a book that really changed a lot of people's perceptions about horses and the ancient tradition of horses and how important they are in the biosphere, and how they relate to us as humans, and why they're so critical to have around as spirit totems and animal guides and all that stuff. So I just reached out to Linda recently because of this bill that just passed, which allows for the slaughter of wild horses. And I thought, who else better to talk about this than Linda Kahanov, who has an innate understanding of what the horses mean to us, not only in terms of their relationship via captivity, but also in the wild domain. So I'm going to try to get Linda on the show on Friday as well. So we'll have George Green for sure, and quite possibly Linda Kahanov, and we'll really get into some pretty interesting material. I'm looking forward to Friday's show. So it looks like we have a couple of callers here. Let's see. Let me just do this really quickly. Let me just kind of do a pre-thing here and go into this here. So you've got somebody calling from the Miami area, the 786 area code. Let's find out who they are and what they want to talk about. Hey, Miami, you're on the air. Hello.
Hey, it's me. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I was
Hi.
calling because I'm interested in astrology, and I've tried learning a little on my own and trying to see, like, if it's kind of real, I guess you can say. But I wanted to know, like, what my sign, if you can tell me, like, what I'm compatible with and a little bit about my sign.
Okay, cool. Well, that's an easy one. All right, so let's go to why don't you give me your birthday?
When is my birthday?
Just give me your birthday. What day were you born? What year?
Oh, well, July 22nd, 1985.
Okay, that's an interesting
And
birthday.
there's kind of someone I want you to compare the charts with, too.
July 22nd, 1985. All right, it's an interesting birthday. I have a friend born on July 22nd.
Awesome.
I know a little bit about this day as a result. So, first of all, you were born. So if we get into the numerology, do you know anything about numerology?
No, I'm new to this. I'm trying to listen to radio stations and learn on my own.
Okay, real quick, 22 is a master number, and people that are born on the 22nd have an interesting destiny to fulfill. Now, they generally are people that can reach larger numbers of people in terms of their influence, right? But the only way that they can make an impact is if they take the impact that they'd like to make is if they take the vibration and really of a 4, because 22 is 4 if you add it up, right? And so the lower vibration of 22 is 4. That represents work. It represents hard work. It represents kind of like middle management. Getting caught in the gears of the machine on some level. A person who has a 22 vibration will never be happy at that level, right? So you have to rise above that, right? You've got to get above, sort of this, kind of 4 square L7 relationship to work, which means you have to have a vision. So half of 22 is 11, and that's where the visionary aspect comes in. So 22 is 11 2 times. It's not just the higher vibration of 4. So you in order for you to rise above sort of lower to middle management status, and there's nothing wrong with that for certain people. I just think that people that are born with the 22 vibration are frustrated at that level because they don't have the ability to make the impact on their environment that they would like. So all 22s, people that have the 22 vibration, have to have a spiritual practice. They need to be able to see from a higher perspective, and that includes everything from meditation to being open to the healing quality of love. Finding better ways of communicating with people. Really kind of joining kind of disparate groups together, because that's really where the 22 shines. If you can get more than if you can get various people from various segments inside of a group or an organization to all work together, that's an amazing achievement. So that's where the 22 vibration. You're right at the end of Cancer, 29 degrees Cancer. Now the 29th degree, again, if you take 2 plus 9, what is that? It's 11. Here we go. We're back into the 1122 phase. So 29 degrees is called the anaretic degree. It's one of the hardest degrees to be born on in astrology. And the reason it's hard is because the energy of the sign, like all signs go from like pretty much 0 to 29, right? There kind of is no, there is a 30th degree and there isn't a 30th degree theoretically because it goes to 0. Anyway, the most powerful manifestation of any sign is in the first few degrees, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, even up to 5. But 0 is the most potent. The least potent, where all the energy of that sign has just dissipated, is at the 29th degree. So what you're trying to do at the 29th degree is get on to the next level, right? It's like theoretically, if we look at this from a past life perspective, you would say to yourself, "Hey, I've been a Cancer before. I'm ready to move on, right? I'm ready to move. I'm ready to be a Leo now. I want to be a Leo. People love Leos. People, I talked about Magic Johnson earlier, right? Guy's a Leo. Everybody loved Magic Johnson, still do. So the Cancerian degree, and it's really funny too. I've noticed that